Alright, I'm back. Yippee. I am back from forever ago. So, I'm sorry if it's been a long time that I, made a video. I was, doing a lot of things. I was also kind of sick for a little bit, but I'm better now. So, today is the day I make my very first 2026 video of this year. Yeah, it's also New Year's and also Christmas. Yippee. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen all the promos from my Twitter account, because I've been there really recently because of a lot of things I've been doing. And also, you might have noticed I got a new laptop, because my old one, for some reason, was like, yeah. But anyways, I have no idea. It was like slowing down or whatever, and it wasn't as good because it was really old. So I got a new one for Christmas, and now I'm using it, which looks really good. I like it. It's really nice, quick, and really nice. But anyways, it's time to get back to the video. So, what am I going to be talking about? I don't know if anyone really knows this game, if you've been, like, on, like, the game, like, era of this year, because a new version of the new game came out, like, in September 4th, I think. And it's Hallownest, yeah. I'm gonna go talk about it. So this is my opinion of why Hallownest is almost the perfect game. There are definitely a lot of pros about it. There's also a lot of cons. There are definitely a lot of things I do when I talk about the game. So, but first, let's get to why am I talking about Hallownest and then anything else. A, I like the game. B, because, I don't know, I just want to talk about it because I had no idea what else to talk about, and it was either this or another, like, week or so until I think of another video idea, so I just saw this one. So, yeah. Oh, and also for Silksong, there's going to be a new DLC for it, which I'm quite excited for because it's going to come out in 2026. Probably, like, later on, maybe, like, months away. But anyways, this is my opinion about Hallownest. It's a really good, like, hard game, definitely, when you first start. It's definitely, like, you don't really know what you're doing, and you kind of just have to, like, just figure it out. It's basically a game where you gotta, like, just start, figure things on your own, and then when you do, you kind of, like, and yeah. Yeah, you kind of, like, start, but you don't really know what you're doing, and then, like, midway, you kind of, like, slowly figure out things, and then you eventually get to the end, and, yeah. Then after that, it was, like, that, and then you kind of, like, can do other things, but, like, yeah, that's kind of, like, the main thing about the game. You kind of just, like, start from point A to go to point B, and then you kind of just have to figure things on your own, and it is, like, a explore attack game. You first start, and then you just go and attack. So, what are the things I like about the game, and the things that I don't really like about the game? The things I like about the game is, like, the whole story and vibe to it. I think the story is really cool, and I also think the vibe of it also gives it that cool hemisphere vibe. Yeah, when you first look at Hallownest, you must think it's like a type of scary game, but like it's not. It's more like you kind of just have to like roam around, attack bugs, and like become the new vessel or something. It's a really cool and fun game, but like there are definitely some pros and cons of it. Like it's a hard game, it's really hard to memorize everything, and you gotta like go back and forth, and then the game just gets kind of boring once in a while when you like already done everything and there's like nothing really else to do when like you already done everything. But like, yeah, there's also a lot of different like enemies and type bosses. There are definitely like a lot, but I don't really know any of their names or what they are or what they do, because there's like a lot of them. So yeah, let's get to the characters. There is the knight who you play as in the beginning of the game. He's kind of like, the whole thing with him, he's kind of like the son of the Pale King, who is kind of like your dad, I guess. I don't really know, but yeah. And there's also the Pale King, who is kind of like your dad, but like he's like a giant worm monster mythical thing. But yeah, I think he's kind of like dead or something. But yeah. And then there's the Hollow Knight, who is not the one you play as, because he plays the Knight, and the one you do get to fight is the Hollow Knight, but he's not hollow because of like some thing when he got raised by his dad, which is the Pale King. But yeah. And then there's Hornet, who is like the main character in the other game, but I'm gonna go talk about that later in the next video. But Hornet, in simple terms, is like your stepsister or something. I don't really know, but yeah. And then there are the enemies. There's the False Knight, who I think might be the very first boss that you meet. He's like some giant beetle thing with armor, and at first when you do meet him, he is quite annoying because he's like in the way and he has like insane attacks. And yeah. And then there's the one, like, I think the one's like a vampire, like Grim or something. I don't remember his name. Yeah, I think he's like a vampire or something. I don't really know. But yeah. And then there's the Radiance, who is kind of like the main reason the whole thing kind of happened. And also in the game Hallownest itself, it's about like there was like a kingdom or whatever, but like a virus kind of happened because there was this being called the Radiance, who are kind of like a god, I guess, and they don't really like the Pale King, because the Pale King was kind of like, you know, like trying to make their people smarter, but the Radiance didn't really like that, so they made a virus and basically got everyone COVID. So that's basically what it is. And then there's also the Dreamers, who are kind of like, they're not the enemies, but they're kind of like the people that you need to defeat with the dream nail so you can like defeat the Hollow Knight. I don't really know, but he's like kind of just like there. But yeah. There's also husk guards, vengeflies, gruzzers, infected miners, and pretty much anything else. There are also Mantis Lords, Soul Masters, Nos, the Collector, and God Seekers. But those are like the ones that are not affected by the whole virus thing that was happening. So yeah, that's kind of like most of everybody in the games, but yeah. So what is the game about? Well, I'm gonna explain it really quick, but here are the main things that I know about the game. It's kind of like about you try to like save the kingdom from a virus, but for that to happen, you kind of have to like sacrifice yourself and kind of like become the new thing to stop the virus, because the Hollow Knight was the thing that was supposed to stop it, but because he felt an emotion from his dad, so that kind of means that that means he wasn't fully hollow, so it kind of makes him pretty much not really great to defend the kingdom because of that reasoning. So yeah, that's why you had to go destroy the Hollow Knight to become the new Hollow Knight, so you can kind of like contain the virus from spreading out. And then yeah, that was kind of like the whole thing with yeah, that's kind of like the whole story. It's kind of like your whole goal is to like become the new vessel, because the old one was like leaking out the virus that was supposed to contain, so you're supposed to kill him, become the new vessel, and then you're kind of like now containing the whole virus thing. There is no one true ending, because in Hollow Knight because all the endings are canon, so it doesn't really matter what ending you get, because you get the same results, basically. It doesn't matter what ending you get, because you get the same ending regardless, and you go in the same way. What I mean by that, is you like still become the vessel, and you're kind of like trapped in the black egg. I think that's what it is. I don't really know, but yeah, basically. And then there's also mini quests and different types of weapons you can get and do. There's the obvious nail, which is the main weapon you start with, and then you can upgrade it to the dream nail, which is kind of like the main one you really need to get to the dreamers. But yeah, there's also charms. There's the boost combat charm. There's the change movement. There's the upgrade spells. There's the add the survivability, and there's also the ones that also like kind of like ROP. So here are the ones that are known for like combat. So there's the fragile / the unbreakable strength, which basically means you do more nail damage. There's the quick slash, basically means you attack faster. There's the Mark of Pride, which basically means you attack further. And then there's the long nail, which is basically like a budget version of the Mark of Pride. It's like the same thing as the Mark of Pride, but it's just cheaper because I think you need like souls or something. I think souls are like kind of like the currency or something. Wait, no, that's wrong. The currency is something, I can't remember what the economy is. I don't really care at this point. But yeah, the like money is not this. I think souls. Yeah, I think mask or like the health bar. Souls, I think, are like the amount you can use before you can add. Because I think each charm has a different amount of souls you can put. I think it ranges from like 1 through 5, maybe 4. I don't really remember. But like, I think because if something's really good, that means you have to spend an amount of that to use it, basically. And you can only get a certain amount. Yeah, bless me. There's the defense ones, which are basically the ones that give you stronger durability. There is the Stallet Shell. Basically means you are invincible for a little bit longer after hit. So basically once you get hit, you are invincible for a little bit longer than usual. There's Quick Focus, which is basically just faster healing. There's Lifeblood Heart, there's also the core version of it, which is basically extra blue mask. If you don't know, mask is kind of like the health of the game. And then besides that, there's like, I don't know what they're called. I think they're called souls, but I don't really remember. But like to the left of the mask is kind of like your like attacks, but also like your health meter. So basically, mask is kind of like the each individual like health points that you get. But when you get hit, you lose one of those, and when you lose all of them, you die. So that's basically what masks are in Hallownest, or your health. And then the little circle thing with the eyes is kind of like your spells, because you can do like massive like attacks with it, or you can heal yourself. But once you do use it, it drains, so you have to like attack other enemies to like make it like regenerate back, basically. And then there's the grub song, which is basically is when you gain soul when you hit like an enemy, basically. It's like when you get hit and then you gain soul, basically, for the grub song. And then and then there's the soul / spells, which is kind of the ones that you use. There is the shaman stone, which is basically just like a massive spell boost. And then there's the spell twister, which is basically a cheaper version of it. It's the same thing, but not as much. Then there's the soul catcher / soul eater. You basically gain more souls, basically. And then this one, and then the next one is kind of like your little partner / minion, I guess. So there is the Weaver Song, which is spider babies that attack enemies. There is the Grim Child, which is basically a little fire demon friend thing. I don't really know. It just goes on and helps you. Then there's the Glowing Womb, which spawns minions using soul. Then there's Defender's Crest, which turns you into a walking war crime. Yeah, so you basically just commit a crime everywhere you go. And there's the utility ones, which kind of like help you navigate around basically. Like the most popular one is the Wayward Compass, which is very hard because if you don't know, in Hollow Knight, when you first start the game, you don't even get a map. You kind of just have to like, you do get a map, but you but it doesn't really show you where you are in the map. So you kind of just like have to guess where you are, which is kind of not good because you don't know where you are and you can get lost very easily. I mean, when you do die, you spawn a shade, which is basically like your soul when you like die or something. It's basically like a shadowy version of you of the night when you die, but yeah. So that's when you do die, it does show the shade and the map when you do die. So that means, but the problem is that you still don't know where you are though. So that's why Wayward Compass is really important, because it shows you where you exactly are. You are in the map. And there's also the Gathering Swarm, which auto collects a Geo. I think what Geo is, if I'm trying to remember, I think is like the currency of the money, is like the currency of the game. Geo is like the money, and that's what you use to spend to get like charms and stuff. That's basically what Geo is. There's also Dash Master, which basically means you dash faster. And there's Sprint Master, which means you just like move faster when you run. But yeah, these are like the charms I would consider the best, but this is according to what everyone else thinks it is. But this is everybody's opinion of what the best charms are: Quick Slash, Shaman Stone, Unbreakable Strength, and Mark of Pride. I mean, they're very insanely powerful and strong charms, and you do an insane amount of damage, and you're also pretty fast, so an easy way to hit someone while also getting on the way. So yeah, those are like all the charms, and like all the different types of things you can do in the game. I don't know what would be my favorite charm, because there's a lot of good ones I like. There's the ones I will probably say, in my honest opinion, the charms I like the most is probably like, if I have to choose, I would probably go with like Quick Slash, Mark of Pride, and maybe like Quick Focus, because those are really good. Quick Focus is really good for healing when you need to heal. So you can like heal and then get out of the way before you get hit. Lifeblood Heart, and also the core version, is also really good because you get extra health alongside with your main health. So basically the Lifeblood version is that you get more additional health, but they're blue. So that's kind of like what it is. That's kind of what Lifeblood is, because you get like the blue versions of your normal health, but you get more of it. So yeah, basically. Yeah, these I would say those are my favorite. There's also really good ones like Dash Meter and Sprint Master. Those are also pretty cool. And yeah, I would say those are my honest favorites, but it just depends on the person. But yeah, those are everything that I like about Hollow Knight. But the ones I don't really like about the game is simply because at first it gets really confusing and you don't really know where you're going. But when you do figure things out, it kind of becomes the same, and it like stays the same. What I mean by that is, when you first start the game, it's kind of like you don't really know what you're doing, and it's kind of like new to you. But like midway, it's kind of like you kind of know what you're doing and stuff. But along the path, it kind of gets kind of boring because you're just doing the same things all over again. You're just walking then you attack a couple of enemies, then you keep walking, then you keep doing that, and then this keep happening, and this happens for quite a while until you find a boss, a charm, a bench. If you don't know what a bench is, it's kind of like your checkpoint, because if you don't find a bench, you could like die, and then you don't go to that bench where you like saved your checkpoint, because benches are very important, because Hollow Knight is a very hard and confusing game. So when you when you find a bench and then when you find another one but just die, you go all the way back to the previous one you just were at, and then you have to go all the way through all that process. It kind of depends on where you are in the map, because there's a lot of different places at Hollow Knight. There's a Dartmouth, which is kind of like the upper surface, basically. It's kind of like the most upper surface you can go, which is kind of like the highest level you can go to. There's also the other ones. I'm trying to remember. Hold on. There is the Forgotten Crossroads, which is kind of like, I think it's kind of like a jungle-ish area. I think what it is. I think I say that because there's like a lot of like plants around. And yeah. There's also the affected version. It's the exact same area, but it's affected with the virus that you see later on in the game. There's also a green path, which is basically, it's kind of like the Amazons of the map, because there's like a lot of trees, plants. There's also like acid pools, vines, and then a lot of places. That's also the place where you get to see Hornet. That's also when you do get to attack her. Yeah, there's also the fungal waste, which is where there's mushrooms, spores, and like bouncing platforms. It also introduces the mantis, like the mantis cult area thing. There's also the Mantis Village. There's the City of Tears, which is like the heart of Hallownest. And I think Hallownest is kind of like the kingdom / like the world of the game. I think that's what Hallownest is. It's kind of like the kingdom, like where the kingdom is. That's basically the kingdom. And also in the City of Tears, it also contains rain, a lot of it. I think the reason is because above it is like some water type area where it's filled with water. Because it's filled with a bunch of water, it drips down to the City of Tears, which is why it's called the City of Tears. Because it's a city with raining, and yeah. It also has an east and west version of the City of Tears, so that's cool. There's the resting grounds. That's kind of like where the Dream Nail is very important. And that's probably because that's probably where the dreamers are. And that's probably where the dreamers are, which makes sense. Then there's Deepness, which is like the deepest part. The Deepness is kind of like Dirtmouth, but the opposite of being the highest, because Deepness is like the lowest, and it's like the deepest and darkest parts. There's also Crystal Peak, which is kind of like a cave mine system with a bunch of a lot of mountains and stuff. But yeah, there's like amethyst and miners and lasers and stuff like that. There's the Royal Waterways, which is like a sewers under the city, I think. It also it also has like secret passes you can go into. There's also fog cannon. It's kind of like an acid lake basically with jellyfish. There's Kingdom's Edge. It's kind of like the edge of the whole world and map, which has like wind. It also has a bunch of ash. It's like a fallen kingdom. There's the Abyss, which is kind of like the Abyss is kind of like the birthplace of like the Knight, the Hollow Knight. So basically, the Abyss is kind of like where the player that we play as came from, which kind of made the vessels of the whole Hollow Knight area. It's like a very dark and silent area, and it's very important to the game because the main reason why we need it is to like stop the affection because for it to work, you need to be like emotionless, and you can't have any emotion or feelings, because if you do, then it kind of makes the whole thing pointless and gives the affection a chance to spread out. So for you to contain the affection, you need to be not having an emotion, basically. There's also different realms you can also go into. There's the White Palace, there's also the Hive, and there's also Godhome. And there's different zones you can also be in, like the Howling Cliffs, Queen's Gardens, Coliseum of Fools, and Ancient Bassin. So that's kind of how the whole map is. There's also a lot of places you can go to, but that's like the main places you can be at or go to. So from the top, you get Dartmouth, Crossroads, Green Path, Fungal Waste, City of Tears, and then below City of Tears is kind of like everything else, basically. Those are kind of like the main places you can be, and then underneath City of Tears is kind of like the deepest and most dangerous parts of the whole entire game, because it's really dark and pretty much anything can kill you. But yeah, that's basically everything about the game and everything that I also mentioned. But here are the reasons that I like and dislike about the game. The thing I like about the game is that it's like, and I think the combat is really nice. I think the story of it is really nice. The art design about the whole entire game is amazing. I think Team Cherry did an amazing job of the whole entire game. There's also like the enemies and like the characters. I think they did an amazing job with it. I think Hollow Knight did such a good job. I think it's like one of like Steam's like best-selling games, basically. I think that's how good Hollow Knight is. I think that's how good Hollow Knight is, and I do recommend people who do want to play it. I mean, if you do not have patience, or you just do not like hard games because you get enraged super easily, I do not really recommend this game, because Hollow Knight is definitely a confusing, hard game, because you don't really know what you're doing or where you're going at first. But later on, when you do get enough money / geos to buy the charm, so you know where you're going, then it makes it kind of easier, so you know where you're going. Those are the things I like about the game. Well, the ones I don't really like about the game is that it can repeat itself too many times. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. Anyways, here's what I don't really like about the game is that it like repeats itself too many times. I think it's like the same for the whole entire game. You kind of just wander around, attack enemies, and then you kind of like fight other bosses, which just make the game way more interesting. But again, it's just the same. You just walk around, you attack a couple of enemies, you if you find cool special things that are actually important to the game. There's other ones where they're kind of not as very important, and you don't really need them to beat the game, but they're cool to kind of have. And then there's the ones where they're kind of useless and nobody really use. But yeah, I think those are the reasons why I don't really like. I think that's the reason why Hollow Knight's not the perfect game, because I think it just repeats itself too many times, and I think it can be a little too hard sometimes. I think it just depends, like the Radiance and other stuff. I mean those are very hard bosses, and I think it just depends on your patience and how much, like, you know what you're doing, because, like, you have to always, like, know what you're doing in Hollow Knight all the time, and you always must know where you're going, and you must also know, like, what you're doing, because if you don't, then you'll get lost, then you will also, like, get confused of where you're going or doing, because Hallownest, like the world of Hollow Knight is, like, pretty big. Like, the map is, like, huge. I mean, I just mentioned, like, 10 different places you can go to, and they're, like, gigantic. But yeah, like, from Dirtmouth to City of Tears, like, that's huge. And then there's other, like, places and realms you can go into, like the Hive, for example, which is, like, I think the Hive is you can probably guess what it is. It's like a bee type area, because I think the realms were part of, like, some DLC that was free that you can play. When I say update, it's more like when I say DLC, I actually mean, like, an update to the game, like a free update, because there's the Nightmares, there's, like, the God version or something, which is because the Nightmare one includes, like, Nightmare Grim as the boss, and also includes, like, this dark red scary vampire look area. And then there's, like, the God realm looking area, which is kind of like you see, like, the Radiance and the other places are from, and then there's other places you can go look at. But yeah, I do think Hollow Knight is a very cool, fun game. I do think it is very fun, but I do think it does repeat itself too many times, and you do get confused at first, but, like, midway through the game, you kind of, like, know what you're doing, but it does get kind of bored. It does get kind of boring to, like, walk around and attack enemies all the time, because that's just gonna get boring once in a while. I think the game is fun. It just depends on where you are at the game. I think at first it's really hard and confusing. Midway, you know where you're going and know what you're doing. But it gets kind of boring of walking around, attacking enemies, going back to the previous spot, and then going back. Because you definitely do walk around a lot, but yeah. And then at the very end of the game, I think that's where it kind of, like, is the most exciting part. I think that's simply because that's, like, where it gets a little more difficult, and it's, like, actually something interesting. That's kind of like something actually happens, and it's more exciting, and something interesting is actually happening than just walking back and forth to different places. You get different items, because you might go to a place, you might need an item, so you go to a different area to get an item, but then you need to go to the previous area where you need to be to get another item to go open the door where you need to go. So Hollow Knight is basically, like, you kind of have to, like, go back and forth to different areas to, like, get different charms, weapons, and, like, to get secrets and stuff like that. I do think Hollow Knight can, like, repeat itself too many times, which I think is which can get kind of boring if you're just gonna keep going back and forth, or you just keep walking around and nothing actually happens. I think the bosses does make the game more interesting, because it's actually something new, and you don't have to, like, do the same things over and over again, but yeah. And then there's also like the other things you can also do, but yeah. But anyways, I would consider that the reason why Hollow Knight is not the perfect game, but it easily could. If they just simply, like, if Hollow Knight doesn't, like, repeat itself, what I mean by that, it does get kind of boring if you just walk back and forth to different places that you've already been, and you have to go there to get something else for the new area you just been in. And yeah, it does get kind of boring, and it does get a little repetitive, but yeah. I think Hollow Knight stuff can be a little more fun if it doesn't repeat itself to like maybe you get to solve puzzles that are actually not confusing, or if they are confusing, I hope it isn't like you have to go all the way back to like Dirtmouth or something, or like the infected crossroads to go all the way back to the area, and then you have to get a completely new item that opened that. Well, so basically I'm saying is it does get kind of boring to go back and forth to do the exact same things. But I do think Hollow Knight is fun when you do fight the bosses and do find collectibles, because I think that's what makes Hollow Knight a really fun game. But yeah, I do think Hollow Knight would be more fun if it's not so if it doesn't like repeat itself too many times, or like you have to do the exact same things, or you have to like travel a lot. I think traveling games are really fun, but it does get kind of boring if you just like keep going back to the same area to get something else, or like to get a secret or something. I don't know. I just think it does get kind of boring of like going back to the same area like the 100th time. I mean, I know there's also fast travel, which would make it faster, which is probably the best part of it, because it'd be really annoying if you just walked all the way back, because I'm not doing that. But yeah, I think Hollow Knight could be more fun if it had like more activities to do than just walking around and killing enemies. I mean, it is fun to walk around and definitely hit like a bug or something that just happened to be in your way because it looked at you funny. But there was probably like fun moments that would make the game more fun. Like puzzles would be kind of cool to have, or like other things. But yeah. I do think those are like the best parts of the game, but yeah. Anyways, that's this video. Hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And yeah, those are kind of like my main argument. I just think it gets kind of boring walking around. I do know quick travel is much easier and faster, but it does get kind of boring of staying the same place over and over again with really nothing else to really look at or do. But yeah, I'm excited for the new DLC for Silksong. I think Silksong's areas is kind of cool, but I feel like Silksong has definitely made improvements because you do get new mechanics from it. But I might make the exact same video for Silksong. And yeah, I hope in the DLC for Silksong they do add like puzzles and stuff, because I think that'd be kind of cool to add. I think Hollow Knight Silksong has puzzles, but like it's not like puzzles. It's not like you actually have to like think about it and solve it. It's kind of like simple, or it's like already there and you don't have to really think about much. I think it'd be kind of cool in the DLC for Silksong. It's like a puzzle type area, or like you like get to see like new characters, or you even get to like become a friend and a friend actually helps you along the way and stuff like that. That'd be pretty cool and fun. But yeah, that's the reason why I think Hollow Knight is not the perfect game, but I do think it has potential of being the perfect game. I think it just repeats itself too many times, and I think it's the same most of the time. You just go back and forth, or just go to the same area you always been in to go get other things from the new area you've been in. I just think it just repeats itself too many times, and it can be a little too hard sometimes. But besides that, I do think Hollow Knight is a really fun and cool game, and I do recommend people who do want a little challenge and also likes to attack and explore. But yeah.